You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by James, Alum, and Callum. How you going, boys?
Not bad. Was good. It is written.
It is written. We're going to talk about Dune.
Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2. But very quickly,
Dune.
we went to the theatre and we saw a musical. Just very quickly.
Oh, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, just very quickly. We saw the musical Grease. It was Alum's first musical outside of, maybe some sort of peripheral kind of school-based stuff like that. How was your experience, Alum, with the musical?
Pretty positive overall.
Because you weren't sure going. It was a free ticket for Alum Deep,
yes.
so it wasn't something that he was sure he was going to be all about.
Yeah, a real man doesn't go to a musical.
No, that's it.
It's somebody who's willing to go for a ticket that's no longer being used and doesn't want to go to waste.
Yeah.
And so I went.
Alum's a very manly man, obviously.
Yeah. You know what we need to go to next?
We
need to take you to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh my god, he'll die. He would die. Maybe. We'll just show him the movie. He'll die.
We're actually thinking about going. My mum wants to go to Rocky Horror, so maybe Alan
she
can
missed
tag
out
along.
on Grease. So.
Yeah. Alan can tag along, and you'll have to fight someone after he sees it.
I am a real man.
My masculinity is challenged.
Punch someone like Peter Griffin does.
Yes.
It's hard work being a real man, gentlemen.
Yeah, we wouldn't know.
We endorse toxic masculinity here.
No, we don't.
No, but yeah. So
like I said, it was a positive experience overall.
And you've never seen the movie?
No, I've not seen the movie.
So this is just your first experience of Grease.
I think that it's
overall.
a shame
Yeah.
because you would have got a lot. You probably would have got more out of the musical if you had watched the film. But for you, it would also be interesting to now go back and watch the movie to see how they compare. I think that'd be a cool exercise for you.
Mm.
Yeah, like finally kind of seeing
Travolta's Riz, man, he's got the Riz.
Mm.
he does have the riz.
The T-Birds are so cool.
And all the smoking and the gang.
So what
violence.
year?
And
What year did
the drag
Grease come out?
race is awesome.
1978.
1970.
Yeah, but it's set in the 50s, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wish
Interesting.
I was a T-Bird.
I'm just trying to think of like young man Travolta because the youngest I probably
You-
accurately remember seeing
have you
him.
seen Saturday Night Fever?
I've never seen that.
No.
Oh, it's a good movie.
The youngest I remember
Yeah.
seeing him is Pulp Fiction, which is
which is
94.
already
90s, yeah.
That was
So you
already.
need-
That was already his like resurgence,
he already,
right?
Yeah, he already like
he already peaked and dipped.
he already like fell off the face of the earth, and then Tarantino was like, "I'm bringing him back," and now he's gone again.
Yeah.
He'll be back.
So the hair's gone. I don't think.
Yeah, but the hair doesn't make the movie.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he could
But he
do.
had the hair.
What was that movie he did with Limp Bizkit guy?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. But really?
He was like, it was like, huh?
No, yeah. He paid a paparazzi.
Tarantino needs to.
Tarantino needs to bring him back for
Bring
his
him back.
last movie.
Yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, we saw Grease. It was good. It was fun.
Grease the musical.
Grease
Yeah,
the musical. Would recommend. The stage was interesting. Nicely designed stage.
yeah. I didn't go. My sister and my mum went the last time it came, which was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was one in between then and now. Maybe there was, but
Maybe.
this is like the newest
Yeah. The newest cycle of Grease
version
life,
of it. Yeah, so I don't know if the one she saw was different to the one you guys saw.
I'd say it's probably generally the same with maybe minor revisions.
Yeah,
But, and I guess maybe depending on what star they have involved, like at the moment the Melbourne one has Marsha Hines in it,
okay.
so it's like they have a thing revolving around her, and at the end she comes out and does like a song. And it's kind of, I guess, more tailored to her stardom.
Maybe, yeah.
So maybe they do minor revisions based on the talent.
Yeah,
Kind of like if they've got a big name, they'll kind of build
That
that
makes
up a
sense.
bit,
That makes
which
sense.
makes sense.
Especially because with Grease, you really need the core story. So in the musical, they really took some liberties with the story, but it didn't matter because you had the core love story.
I guess
and
most
that's
people
all
going to see it have seen the movie anyway, so
Yeah.
it's just like going to see a
Yeah.
different
And,
version of it.
Yeah, it was fine.
Anyway,
I mean, again, I may change my mind once I've seen the actual movie, but I found it absolutely hilarious that the girl who has suffered a teenage pregnancy
Mm.
is the one telling another girl to loosen up.
But that's also real life. You got people giving advice who should not be
it's
giving
like
advice.
you have suffered arguably one of the harsher consequences of what you're.
It's funny.
Condoning
lifestyle,
You
yeah.
criticize
Lifestyle, yeah.
Rizzo like there aren't generations of women who would hit you for criticizing Rizzo.
I mean, they can. It's not wrong. It is No, I don't think anyone can argue properly against me in good
Also,
faith that
No,
being
but
pregnant
you're
in high
criticizing-
school is a hard thing to,
Yeah.
You're criticizing a musical's story. I just want to put that out there.
No,
This isn't a drama.
No, but it happens in the movie too.
But
But that's
I know.
also real
but
life.
that's also exactly. It's like
Yeah.
isn't that the point? It's like people giving advice are usually people who shouldn't be giving
That's-
advice.
But these
But she
situations,
takes the advice.
yeah, but these situations that happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to our next musical, Dune, the musical. Could you imagine?
Oh,
That'd be good.
Or
Oh,
one we're
they
gonna
could
write
do-
ourselves.
They
Pulp
could do
Fiction.
Like a
like
sandworm with a guy in a sandworm
They could
suit.
do like what's Little Shop of Horrors with the big
Yeah.
plant, but the
Yeah,
big, it's
yeah,
like the
yeah.
big singing worm.
Yeah,
Feed me spice.
we're gonna write a Dune musical. after
Feed me,
this.
Seymour.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Still go and
feed
have
me,
your certain
Paul.
number.
I need spice, Paul.
See, that's the line when writing a musical. How do we write it and it not come out kind of inappropriate? Because
Could do
already Dune has that kind of context of
Well, have you seen the popcorn bucket?
yeah. There's also that, but I'm like, how do you write a musical around? Like, obviously they stripped a lot of the kind of, I guess, Islamic subtext out of the films, right? And like, how would you sort of navigate some
Like
of the
a
themes?
No,
book
it's set. It's set in 1950s America.
yeah.
Yeah, and the Fremen are a gang, and the Harkonnen are a rival gang.
Oh no.
It's like,
Oh man, and they have to race a worm at the end.
yeah, have a worm race.
That's cool.
That would be
Yeah.
cool. Did you see? I saw this guy on Instagram or whatever.
Oh.
He had one of those like Segway things.
Yeah, I saw
like
that.
one of those skateboard
yeah,
things,
at the
but
movie
had-
theater. And he was like riding it.
but had a worm casing
Yeah, yeah,
over
yeah.
it, and he was riding it around the theater. That was cool.
You should get a free ticket.
Yeah. I wonder if it was like at first I thought it was part of a marketing stunt, like he was
Yeah.
part of the marketing
Just a
team.
nerd.
It's
But
when
it
you got
was just a guy.
trespassed from the actual theater is when you're like, no, that was just some guy.
Yeah, or he tries to ride the worm into the theater.
Yeah,
and they're like,
the
do you
really
have a
weird thing.
ticket?
The really weird thing is that's just him. Has nothing to do with the film.
Yeah,
Like he just,
he's never seen
He's
Dune.
like, there's a Dune movie?
What's Dune?
What to do?
I was gonna say he only likes the books.
He's like, what are you into? He's like, I'm a worm anthropologist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he might, he just might really like worms.
Yeah, that's... Oh man, okay. We're already going off the rails.
All right,
Start.
yeah.
So we're going to talk about Dune 2.
Dune Part 2. Yeah.
Which we did see through many trials and tribulations.
Oh yes, there was a problem with our screening. We had to go. And
But it was one of those moments where we're looking at it and it's slightly out of focus, and I'm like, am I losing my eyesight, or I'm like, is it a 3D one? We don't have the glasses, or like, what's going on
'cause-
here? Is it?
yeah, because it was the trailers and the ads,
Yeah.
and it was a bit out of focus and misframed. Or framed
Yeah.
incorrectly. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's just the ads. When the
Yeah.
movie comes on, usually, the black curtains move a
Or-
little bit and the
Yeah.
picture
Yeah.
resizes. And we're waiting. And you guys were like, no,
Me-
I don't think it's right.
So me and Alan went to the counter and we kind of got blown off a little bit. We're like, oh, it's just the ads, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it was not fine.
Then the movie starts. It's like, nope, it's definitely cut off and it was blurry.
Because anytime there was like a close up, it was like out of focus. Anytime there was a close up, it was okay. And then anytime anything was like middle distance or blur, it was like, that's blurry. I
Yeah.
can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
But eventually we managed to see the
Yeah,
film.
but then you guys were like, I think we should go. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, if we get up and then we miss part of the movie and then they're going to give us a hard time. And then when the subtitles were
yeah.
cut off, we're like, no, let's get out of here. But luckily we got to see a different screening.
A better screen.
Better screening. And yeah, it all worked out in the end. Yeah.
As it was written.
Yes, so as it was written, we did end up seeing this movie, luckily.
As it was screened.
Alex, friend of the show, Alex is joining us.
Yeah. First,
He'll have to share a microphone, but that's okay.
when's the last time you were on, Alex?
Oh, a long time ago.
There was Harry Potter was the old show.
Yeah,
Shazam was like the first few months of the...
I guess so.
Was I here for Shazam?
Yes, because you were like, I like wizards.
Yeah, I think you were here for Shazam.
Yeah, I remember. It was like
I've listened to like
it was like
brief-
2019.
I've listened to like
That's
brief
wild.
moments of every episode as I'm uploading to YouTube just to make sure I've got the right audio matched to the right
Yeah,
like, thumbnail picture, right? And so I did. He's on the Shazam episode because of just the incoherent
Yeah.
yelling. I'm like, okay, that's Alex's incoherent
Yeah.
Lovely,
yelling.
lovely.
Yeah.
That's years ago. Yeah,
So that's yeah.
we wanted to get you on for the PAX episode because you're wearing your PAX t-shirt. It
Yeah.
reminded me.
But he had the COVIDs.
Yeah, I had the COVID.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So did James's mum. That was an unfortunate one.
Yeah, we're on
Yeah.
COVID watch for that.
While I was in the middle of like the second day of PAX.
And his mum just sends him a cheeky text.
Yeah.
Like, just like the picture of the positive test.
Yeah, BT dubs.
I was like, mask on.
Yeah. In and up okay, though.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised. Wait, did you guys get sick after PAX?
No.
Because you guys always get sick. But after,
maybe minorly, but nothing major.
I remember Nathan was telling me and Alex got super sick after my chem. That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I was in a mosh pit though for that, so that's
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I copped it bad. It was awful.
I went in going, I'm gonna get sick after this, but this is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good show. Anyway.
worth it, yeah.
So yeah, we ended up seeing Dune 2.
Yeah.
And
I looked. Where is it? I got it here. We reviewed part 1 back in 8th of December 2021, episode 104 of.
so that's up
of
on the
Tuesday
YouTube
Review.
if people want to
Yeah.
go back and listen.
So go back and listen to that because obviously they've split the first Dune novel into 2 movies, but it's basically just one story. It's one
Yes.
movie cut in 2, basically.
Yeah.
So hear our thoughts on that. Go back to episode 104. What did I just say? 104.
104.
Go back to episode 104. Listen to our thoughts on that. We'll be talking about part 2, but it's the same story. It's the same.
Also, yeah, watch them back to back when it comes out on streaming.
Yeah.
Or if you get a
Yeah,
chance to, or if you
That'd
go to
be
one of
good.
those sessions where they're doing the back to back double.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because our big problem with Dune, the first one, is the hard cut ending.
Yeah.
One of our problems where
It's not
just
even
like,
an ending.
It's
It's
like there's a
just-
scene and then it's like fade to black is over. Now see you next
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, the budget ran out.
Shocker.
Yeah,
This is it.
the books are the exact same though.
Yeah.
You remember
But-
you complaining about it to me? I'm like, yeah, the books are the same. It's like a hard cut, and then like the tone just shifts into this like other novel.
Yeah, but at least you still get to turn to the next
Yeah,
page
true,
and it's
you're right.
there.
I
Whereas we
get
had
it.
to wait 3-4 years for it to.
Yeah, and so same with this. The story just starts abruptly. You're just like,
Yeah,
I get okay.
yeah.
So if you
But
stitch it
it's
together,
one. Yeah,
a
it's
good
one
time.
movie
Yeah.
split in 2. I mean, we'll talk about both movies, but the second one predominantly.
Is
I
better.
I think the second one's better than the first one, even though, like I said, it's basically just one long
I think-
movie.
Thinking back, I think it does suffer some of the same problems that I had with the first
100%.
movie, but the story's better.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's more
Yeah.
action because
Yeah.
it's the war starts.
Well, it's funny,
and all
right?
that.
Because the first movie is kind of like a bit slower, more contemplative, and then all the action's kind of loaded towards the end of the novel anyway.
Yeah,
So it is going to be a more entertaining, if you want to use that word, movie because
Yeah.
they kind of have to push the story forward in the way they didn't do in number 1.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
they have to all the hard work with the sandworm training and the spoilers for Dune. I guess the story if you haven't read it.
Well,
It's been like 60 years. Like,
yeah.
But
yeah.
there's all that Fremen training stuff that they kind of hint at in the first, and then
Well, yeah, and then they'd get to do
they
it
have
in
to
this
do
one.
it, and then all the drama and the action and the craziness. And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the first Dune Part 1 because I'm a huge fan of the novels. I even like the Lynch movie, even though it's, the adaptation's not great. I like the Dune...
That's just because you're a simp.
No.
yeah, but that's
not
have,
why I like
have
it.
I have my Lynch limit, which is Inland Empire. I can't get on board with that. But what was I saying? Yeah, I like the Lynch version, and I even like the 2000 miniseries. So I'm biased against it. When I saw Dune Part 1, I'm like, oh, they didn't do a great job of adapting this. They left this out. Da-da-da. But visually, it's really strong.
Yeah,
And Part 2 is much the same, where
very well directed. Yeah,
yeah, like visually incredible, and I can see why people are
losing it.
So losing it over this movie. Visually, it's the action's pretty great. Sound is awesome. Visually, like the use of practical effects and even the CGI. Like, as much as I hate CGI, like it all looks pretty good. This is what a $200 million blockbuster should look like.
Yeah,
Not just CGI garbage
and I read
thrown
that,
up on the screen.
It's interesting. So I read some back context about this production, and there was expectations in movie circles that it was going to cost way more. But then, like, Denis kind of turns up with, like, the script as tight as it can be. He knew where everyone was supposed to go. Like, apparently the way they shot the film was very focused. So there were very little reshoots. Everyone did their work. there was like no drama, and they basically used their money as best as they could, from what I read.
Also, you should be able to reuse some of the resources they had from the first production as well.
I guess some of the costumes and props,
Maybe, yeah.
but
Yeah.
pretty different looking film too. They probably wanted to tighten up some designs as well.
It seemed to me though that they pretty much went back to back with the production though, didn't they? Because like at the moment that June was released, they were like, "Hey, here's the second one."
No, that was the plan, but then
COVID hit them.
And then the writer's strike pushed it back even more. So originally, I thought when the first one came out, I'm like, they were going to do it back to back. Then the first one came out and I was like, oh no, the second one's not even greenlit unless the first one does well, which I was like, that's dumb.
The intention was to be pretty close behind. But they couldn't do it literally back to back. But I think it was like, I think they wanted to 6 months in it like ahead or something like that.
We talked about this with the first part. This movie would have been so much better if they did them back to back and filmed it all at once. Yeah. And, you know, Lord of the Rings, we always talk about, it's lightning in a bottle. It'll never happen again. The fact that he got to make all three at the same time, all filmed back to back, all released 1 year apart. Yeah. Like, this is what Dune needed. And I think, the gap and the things that... It's two parts. They've split the first novel into two parts. First one's like 2.5 hours. This one's like 2:45, and they're still missing so much.
Yeah, that's my problem with the this one. Like, David Lynch's version is famously flawed. You know, even he himself isn't happy with it. And you know, I mean, not to talk about Lynch's version because that's not what we're here for. But it's like, you know, he delivered his vision as best as he could with his striking cinematography and props and all that stuff.
It's got personality.
But he tried his best to get in all of what I would consider to be some of the most important parts of the novel into his version. Whereas some of those parts that I consider important just flat out didn't make it into Denise.
What do you think is missing?
I forget her name, the little sister.
She's
I think
not
that's a
born.
huge part of the tale that wasn't told. I think they're assuming they're going to leave it for Messiah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and as James was saying after we saw it, you know, one of the craziest parts of the first book is the fact that she's born, grows up super quick, and then, spoilers for Dune, murders the Baron.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's such a crazy part of the book. I would love to see that on film, like we do in David Lynch's version.
I remember when part one came out, I'm like, oh, how are they going to do the ending? How are they going to visualize it? This is supposed to be the definitive Dune adaptation. And the answer is they just didn't do it.
Yeah. And like the reason I like that part of the story so much is it's a key part of Jessica's story as well. That weird relationship she has with her daughter, plus how the people around them react to the otherworldly nature of...
Yeah.
Those parts were cool when she's like talking to the pregnant...
but that's all we get.
To herself. She's crazy.
Just a little hint, you know, as a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think... Yeah, it's...
Sorry, just to get my rant out of the way. The other big problem I have with this film is I think it's probably even an issue I think in Lynch's version, is that when you read the book, Paul's like tripping mad ballsack from the minute he gets on Arrakis, like just straight away. The minute he gets that first hit of the spice, he's basically like half like tripping, like non-stop. And it's a huge problem for him in the books because I was talking about it with James and Nathan and Alan. He's like haunted by the visions all the way through. It's like always with him. He's terrified. It freaks him out. But there's also that sense of strange power he gets from it. And it's it's psychological interplay. And you don't really get much of how powerful his psychic abilities are or how much they disturb him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this one did it better than Lynch's version. Did it like he had the visions of the Holy War and was like, well, I want to try to avoid this.
Yeah, but but he's so kind of he's just like, well, after he takes the water of life, he's kind of just like, oh well, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, whereas like in the book, he's like, yeah, no, I know everything now. Leave me alone.
No, like the coolest part of the film for me was when he's at the big Fremen meeting, and then he just starts telling people like, facts.
Listen up.
Yeah, he just starts telling people facts about their lives. I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that interests me in the book, where it's like, what do you do with a man who knows everything? What toll does that take on him? How does he express that?
I think my biggest issue that comes from film adaptations of Dune is the fact that Paul never wants to be like the Messiah. Like that's why he takes the name Wadib, is because he's like, I'm not the Messiah. Like you may think I am, but I'm not. And he like does everything he can to prevent it.
Yeah, but I think
it's too late.
At a certain point, yeah, he has to accept it.
But the whole point of the book is that he's absolutely
trying to avoid it at every turn.
But like in the ending of this film, it's like, hey, yeah, we're going.
Let's
kick it off, boys. I'm starting the war. Let's go. Yeah. Well, no, the point is that he
gets swept up in it.
Well,
in the book he becomes the emperor because he's trying to avoid the war. So he's like, I'll become the emperor.
Yeah. I think, and in this adaptation as well, Chani is like in the book she's kind of ride or die. Like, Paul, you're the Messiah. Like, let's go. In this, they're like, oh no, she's the skeptical one. She's the progressive new school of Fremen.
She's the Scully and what's his name?
I think.
Look, still
I kind of understand.
And I'm like, okay, I understand. And people are like, oh, they did such a great job with changing her character. But I'm like, kind of like what Alex said, is like now they've kind of switched. Whereas Paul isn't trying to avoid the war at any cost. He's just like, okay, let's go. And now Chani is not the one who's like, let's go. She's the one who's like, no. I'm like, okay.
I guess I understand it. Like I said to the boys after we saw it, my issue with what they've done with Chani is that they've kind of taken a lot of the love out of the relationship, at least on screen. So it's like in the books, they're very much in love all the time. They're like, she's his rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when he's like, being harassed by these visions and he's got all these stresses on him, she's the one that comforts him. And they kind of took that out of the story.
Yeah,
but it also makes her an own female protagonist instead of being Paul's second.
Well, that's what I think. That's why they're doing it. Is like, I understand they want to sort of flesh her out more and not just have her be the love interest. But in changing that, it changes so much of the story, and especially in when they do Dune Messiah, the next book,
because Paul's kind of just on his own now. You know what I mean?
I mean, they're gonna have to spend so much time like
trying to build up that relationship in Messiah.
Yeah, trying to win her back in Messiah, I guess.
Because it's like you were saying in the book,
which takes place years. No, it doesn't. I'm thinking of children.
Is it in Dune?
No, it takes place years later.
Is it in Dune that they lose a baby in the first book?
Yeah, the first one. They cut that out of the movie too.
Yeah, because it's like in the book, at this point in the story, it's like they've already had their ups and downs as a couple. And it's like you don't even get a hint of any of that stuff in the film.
Yeah. I think I have the same, even though I like this more than part one, I have the same problems as part one, where visually, audibly, it's awesome. But the adaptation, I feel like, still not 100%.
As someone who's not as wedded to the source material... I enjoyed the first one. It's just a bit slower, but that's the story.
Part of it,
and the second one I enjoyed a lot more. Again, I'm not as close to the material as the rest of the boys.
They're good movies.
Yeah, it's still good,
but again, I enjoyed this a lot more than the first one.
Yeah.
I think one of the other problems I had with this, and I know they've got to get that PG-13 rating. Right?
Yeah, that's the
The other issue is there's so much violence in this movie. Whenever a blade goes close to someone, the camera cuts away. The violence is done. And the camera comes back.
I remember we talked about it when we reviewed part one. Yeah. I said this is like, we always talk about how PG-13 is, it's too broad, and they try to, they're trying to make adult sort of content for everyone, and so they lessen. And I understand maybe you don't want to go full R because they have to make money, and they're spending a lot of money to make the movie and to cut it off from younger audience, whatever. But I'm like, that's kind of what you need to do for this kind of project. But also, I'm like, the first part, and especially this part, like, there needs to be an in-between PG-13 and R rating in America, because it's too safe. And there are moments of violence in this movie where I was like, hey, that's pretty full on, but
you never see the blood, you never see any wounds.
Yeah.
Or when there is blood shown, like there's one scene in this, I won't mention specifically, James knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's blood on like the wall and the ground, and
but
there's
on the
kind of an incident of violence, I guess, before
the blood just happened to be on the wall.
Yeah.
But the corpse is like completely clean, spotless. Yeah.
And I just like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like, we need that in between.
We need an in between.
You're making a movie about space Hitler. You can get away with some blood.
Especially with this movie where it's literally about a galactic war.
Essentially, yeah.
And again, we talked about this in the first part, where they sanitize certain aspects of the language because I guess they don't want to make any connections or offend anyone.
I
But
understand.
The Holy
yeah.
War, they call it the Holy War in the movie, but in the book it's called the Jihad. And they're very careful not to...
Which I understand. You're updating it for a modern context.
but I mean,
it's fine.
again, it's like...
But yeah, there are certain elements which they do show in the movie which they just clean up too much.
Yeah.
But again, I understand why they do it. They've got to make money.
I was impressed
but
with
that's-
seeing them drain the blood from people. Oh, that was nice.
Oh, drain the water.
The water.
Drain the water, yeah.
That was cool, yeah.
That was a surprisingly graphic, not in the literal sense, but like the way you see the body the thing compress around the body.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
suck
that was
the
cool.
fluids. I was like, they didn't have to do that, so that was nice to see.
Yeah, like I feel like visually it's great. Like when they get to the siege, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And when they're, when there's action scene, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Not enough talk about coffee service though.
Yeah, but like, I feel like again, like like they did the bare necessities of like here's the story, and they got rid of what makes the novel great, which is all the politics and the weirdness and the philosophy,
No guild
and the
members.
religion and the language.
Yeah, that's something I
they
forgot
don't
to
talk
bring
about
up.
the guild. It's like the whole point of this. Well, why the spice is so important is,
Yeah, it's why the whole blowing up the spice works.
It's the
just
thing that the
guild
houses,
hey,
the great
do this
houses
double
just
space travel.
yeah,
the great
like-
houses just really like spice.
Yeah,
There's
like-
nothing to do with the guild.
Yeah, has
They
it-
mention it, but they never really show any. Like they never showed that element of it.
Yeah.
either.
God help us if they
I
get
remember-
even deeper into the books and then it starts to be clone assassins and all this crazy
I
stuff.
think they mentioned the guild in the first one, and I think
they
that's the
do.
only...
They
Yeah.
mention it, but they
That's
don't
it.
talk about
Again.
it.
And
And
then
then they're just
this
like,
is-
"Oh yeah, we need this for space travel."
This is
Let's not
why,
talk
like,
about it.
this is why, especially in the first part, when they were missing such huge parts of the novel, it's now we're feeling the effects. There's a really important dinner scene in the first novel, which I think they filmed for the first part, but they cut it out, and then Denis Villeneuve was like, "Oh no, I don't really do extended cuts or director's cuts." He's like, "This is my version." And I'm like, no, we need the extended cut, bro. I know you filmed stuff. I know there was important book stuff that you filmed and cut out. We need that put back in because it sets up a lot of stuff. Guild,
Yeah.
like the politics. Like Lady Fenring shows up in this movie,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's right. There's like whole scenes of like Count Fenring in the book, in the first part that are just not here.
Yeah, that
and now we
bully,
got this new character. There's all these new characters introduced. Like
Fade.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
Raban, did you know he has a brother?
yeah, like
We're going to save him for part 2.
like I think this is why they needed to do it back to back. Is like do the whole like thing all at once, cast the whole thing all at once. Have the princess and the emperor show up in the first part. I know in the novel, like you don't really see them until later, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, have all this set up
Ready to go.
earlier and like make it one big movie over like 3 hours each, whatever. And then plus, if you're lucky enough to have like a 4-hour extended cut, do the Lord of the Rings thing.
Yeah.
But they'll never do it. Studios don't have the balls to do that anymore.
Speaking of the Emperor, we got some good Christopher Walken dialogue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he wasn't in it enough.
No, but
No.
he had some good cadence.
And he didn't dance.
He had some good rhythm.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't blame Denis for that, though. The Emperor's not a huge part of the first book anyway.
Yeah, but
I did like how they did those scenes, though, because
Yeah.
that's how they are in the book. It's Roland writing in a diary, and that's
Yeah.
what you get.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's why, like, even the Lynch version starts with the princess, like, narrating. And even though it's just exposition, it's like, oh, this makes sense because
Yeah.
it's, the first book is, like, is her diary, basically. Also, the political nature of Paul's marriage to Princess Aurulan is completely lost in this movie.
Yeah, that's, again, it's the
Like
problem.
Chani's like really angry, and
Yeah.
like there's the close up of her giving him the evil eye, and there's a
'Cause they
close up
don't
of
really
him.
have a
And
relationship
then
in
everyone's
this film.
memeing it and putting on Twitter and being like, "Oh my god, devastating, best movie ever, Zendaya." And I'm like, no, the movie's missed the point. You've missed the point.
Yeah.
It's purely political.
I mean, Paul
Chani's ride or die in the novel, and Jessica in the
Yeah, so
novel.
now they're setting up a whole who's going to win his affections angle to the
Yeah.
third
Yeah.
movie.
And
yeah.
and then Jessica in the novels, like to Chani, she's like, "Look, I know this is hard, but it happened with Leto because she wasn't married to Leto; she was his concubine."
Oh,
So there's this
I
whole
read-
Game of Thrones epic political
Yeah.
chess game going on. That's just not hinted at in
the
these
book,
movies.
I'm pretty sure in the book, Paul even says something to the effect of, it's like, she will have none of my love, none of my touch.
100%.
Not his children. She's like, she only has his name. Chani has like everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
She'll
then that's
be
how
she'll
she-
be my wife except for a name and
And even Jessica has a line to like an effect of
Yeah.
that. She's like, like even that she turns around to Chani, like even though they're married, like history will look on us as their wife.
as their wife.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
because they pretty much, not literally do away with the relationship between Paul and Chani, but they minimize and change its nature. Like you said, they're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in Messiah. Yeah, I don't agree with that. It's a
Yeah.
creative decision because I'm like,
I feel
you
like-
can't just shoehorn that into Messiah because presumably that's going to be years down the line.
Yeah.
like
Ali's grown up by
the
then,
plot is
yeah.
years down the line.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you going to do? Oh, by the way, everyone, our relationship was cool.
Yeah. Oh, we sorted it out off screen.
It's alright. They'll just flash forward a few months and everything would have magically fixed itself.
It starts
yeah.
off with like a slideshow of like happy moments in the relationship.
Yeah. Why do birds?
But Paul's not happy though because
with like Timothy Chalamet as
Yeah.
Paul. Like,
but Paul never smiles because he
Okay,
knows everything that's going to happen
This is
anyway.
intro,
This can be
like-
in our musical version.
we're writing a Dune musical.
We're reading it, yeah.
Oh,
So
God. Can I play a worm?
yeah.
The talking worm, like in Little Shop of Horrors, already.
Can you
talked
do
about
the breakdance move, the word?
Oh no, but I'll learn.
Yeah, like I understand why people are losing their minds over, especially this movie, the first one as well. But this one's like people are going like best movie ever, best. There was that person who tweeted like, now I know what seeing Star Wars in 1977 was like, and I was like, okay, buddy.
Calm down. Jesus.
But I understand why, especially visually, it's very impressive, especially considering most blockbuster mainstream movies are just CGI garbage, not even worth watching on the big screen. So I understand why people are really loving this. But in terms of like the adaptation and the characters and the political intrigue and the religion and the language and all this philosophical stuff and all this cool stuff that they've taken out of the movie from the book, I'm just like, okay, so he's made the sort of
mainstream clean Dune.
not the dumb like Michael Bay version, but also not the like proper
a while
adult
ago,
adaptation.
we were talking about Harry Potter, and you said something like you feel like
here we go, Alex.
the movie versions of Harry Potter to you aren't the defining adaptations of those books. Like, we still haven't got something like that with Dune. Like, I think that Denis' version, as good as it is, to me, it's like the other side of the coin to Lynch's Dune. If you know what I
feel
mean?
like
But we still don't have the Dune movie.
I think Denis' version is miles better than Lynch's version. Lynch's version made me angry.
I prefer Denis' version, but Lynch, like I said, he told the story keeping as many of some of the big important elements as he could,
but
while also leaning into the weirdness of the Dune universe.
He obviously changes a lot, loses
like
a
I
lot.
said,
but
he himself wasn't happy with it.
the ending of Lynch's Dune makes me angry.
oh yeah, it makes no sense, especially if you read a novel. But like, I said this when we reviewed part 1. Lynch's Dune, the 2000 miniseries, and these new movies, they're all
Do we know about have we watched the Russian stage play version? We can bring it to Lord of the Rings. I'm just being
the Russian, Lord of the Rings, yeah.
I've seen Soviet Lord of the Rings.
Wait, do you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I've
Wow.
seen it.
It's many hours long, isn't it?
No,
It's on
or maybe I
YouTube.
think of The Hobbit. One of them, I've seen one of them, and it's absolutely just mental.
Yeah.
10
No.
out of 10 no, it's the Lord of the Rings because it's got Tom Bombadil. in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah. I think all three like live action Dune versions have pros and cons and things missing from the novel.
Yeah.
And so even though Lynch's version is wild and completely out there are things in it that even this version doesn't have. And there are things in the 2000 miniseries that even though, it's a 2000 TV series and the budget and the special effects aren't the best, the has 3 90-minute episodes, so the adaptation is more accurate. Whereas this version, it gains a lot in terms of visuals, but it loses a lot in terms of the adaptation. And so I think
Yeah.
for me, none of them are the definitive adaptations like Lord of the Rings is, where I'm like, they're never going to get a better adaptation, live action adaptation of Lord of the Rings. But Dune, I'm like, they could definitely do a HBO miniseries.
Yeah, exactly. I think a property like Dune, which is so not complicated, but there's just a lot of information in Dune.
Yeah.
Like not just the
I
political
understand,
stuff,
yeah.
but then you've
I
got the
understand
world building, religion.
The adaptation from book to screen is always going to be something
Yeah.
lost, something gained, something changed. But yeah, I feel like too much was cut out, too much was streamlined, and I think a lot of the characters feel one note in a way.
Like Stilgar. You take Stilgar, he's just a hype man.
That was hilarious.
Bro, get me Stilgar.
They almost made him a Joker character when you think about it. Every time Paul
He's
breathes,
Actually, everyone in the
Lisa-
cinema laughed. Like every
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
It was a bit much.
Lisa,
Listen,
Lisa and
That's it.
Algib, yeah.
I'm like, man, like, come on. He's just,
Yeah.
in the book, he's a serious character. It's like, one thing I did enjoy about this is having the guy he killed. I'm sorry, my memory's terrible.
Jamis.
As a kind of like person on the shoulder.
That wasn't
kind
in
of.
the book, was it?
No, but it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Actually, that reminds me. One of the things I missed about the book that I really enjoyed that I didn't see here was that, like, Jamis has a funeral.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and
And
his
it's-
family.
Yeah,
yes.
and it's a whole thing because Paul now has a bunch of kids to look after.
Yeah, and he has
Yeah.
like a de facto wife kind of
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
going on.
He's like, you killed Jamis, so now his
You have to
wife
look
is your
after- He has all the
wife, and your
responsibility of the kids and
I'm
stuff,
like,
and Paul's
yeah.
like-
See, it's all that like Fremen culture stuff that you get in the book that's
They strip it
completely
away,
stripped
yeah.
away, and part of that is like the language and the Middle Easternness
I'll say, like,
that
yeah,
they're trying very hard to avoid. I'm like, that's fair enough, but also you're losing what makes these people a culture and
the
a
context
race.
and subtext are very different.
Yeah, because in the book
Yeah.
they even throw around like they have Ramadan, like the Fremen have Ramadan in
Yeah.
the book, and it's like they're
But it's
literally
also-
space Arabs.
Yeah, it's also
But you don't-
it's also
you don't
so
get that
far in
in
the
the
future
movies.
where religions have completely changed to what they are now. Like they've merged and separated again and turned into different. So it's not.
Yeah,
100%.
that's why I said space Arabs, not space Muslims, because I think I'm pretty sure I read like there was like some Dune expert was saying that it comes from like Buddhism, like there was like some connection between Buddhism and Islam.
In the book there's Zen Sunni, which I guess
Yeah.
is Zen Buddhism and Sunni Islam, sort of
And it's like really.
merged into.
See, this is why you need a version where you can pause it and check out footnotes, because the book has
Yeah.
all these great footnotes, and it goes into the history of the world
Yeah.
and all this real like J.R. Tolkien appendices style.
You need one of those like when Harry
Stuff.
met Sally cutaways, where it's like Stilgar sitting on a chair, be like, "So this is why this happens." Like speaking
It's,
to the audience.
yeah, Margot Robbie in the bath in that. What's that
Yeah.
movie? The Big Short. But it's it wouldn't be a bath because there's no water on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually watching like a little report. Like even Al Jazeera was turning him and being like, "Yeah, this is kind of cleaned up." Like,
Yeah.
because like they've kind of whitewashed
Also-
it. Like, because the line is like between like what has Herbert taken as like cultural influence and just basically
from what-
stealing is from other cultures.
But from what I understand, like he researched it very well, and it's not like I said, it's 10,000 years in the
Also,
future. So
you
it's like
don't want to play the white savior dance.
yeah.
Because if you've got the white man coming into a different culture and then he's the savior and he's the leader,
but he's
and
not trying. He's not trying to change
No,
their culture.
no,
He's trying to.
that it would be interpreted in a specific way.
Oh man,
It's already
look,
being interpreted that way.
One of the problems is
but
so
they don't want to make it worse.
I know this is a phrase we throw around a lot on this show, and it's kind of cliche at this point, at least for online commentators. But media literacy, specifically for
yeah.
Dune, is bad.
Oh, yeah.
People don't understand that Paul's not a hero; he's a
Yeah.
protagonist.
They literally compare him to Hitler in the second book.
Yeah, and it's like they think that he's like trying to save these Fremen people or whatever. And in the book, he often says himself like, "I'm going to be their downfall." Like, yeah, they might be happy now,
Yeah.
but just wait.
Yeah, Paul knows how bad he is. It's
Yeah.
part of the it's part of the point. Is
Yeah.
that he's like very much aware of what he
But
can
it's
do.
it's not something that they translate very well. They
In
try
the
their
movie,
best
yeah.
with the you get the visions of the apocalypse and that type of thing. But then you still got Timothy Chalamet looking charismatic on screen, being like, "Yeah, let's fight," and everyone's like, "Yeah, go
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
go the Rizzler."
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, you still want Paul to win because the Harkonnens are so evil and the Emperor is like killed his father and all this stuff. But yeah, like it loses a lot of the subtext and subtlety and all the juicy stuff
Yeah.
that makes it Dune.
I think you need, like, as you said, like a series.
Yeah. Or like I was even thinking like the 2000 miniseries is 90. There's 3 90-minute episodes. So what's that? 4.5 hours. These new movies are about 4.5 to 5 hours anyway. If you extended the runtimes by, let's say, 3 hours, they're 3 hours each, which is normal now because even superhero movies are like 3 hours. So it's like you've got a 6-hour movie. You could definitely adapt at least as well as the miniseries did in 2 movies. But yeah, I don't know. There's just so much they cut out.
Yeah. Look, we'll be back after these quick messages with more Dune. You are back on the Tuesday review, talking all about Dune. Before we cut to Alan, who's been silent this whole episode, I do want to point out, during the break, we were talking about Austin Butler as his performances. Fade
Rother.
Whatever his name was. I was seeing on the internet some memes about him being like, I do not believe in your Bene Gesserit witchery. And then as soon as someone was and then the witch was like, but I got ass. He's like, on the other hand.
Yeah.
He's like,
I'll do whatever you want.
I'll do whatever you want. But I didn't appreciate those memes.
Yeah. No, I think...
And he was a good character.
He was good. One thing that I had a problem with in the first movie was that the Fremen, like, most of them just have, like, American accents, except for Stilgar, because Javier Bardem has, like, Spanish accent or whatever. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if all the Fremen had the same accent, because they're all...
It's cultural.
Yeah. I'm like, well, you've cast Javier Bardem as Stilgar, and he's great. And so why don't they do, like, a Wonder Woman thing, where when they cast Gal Gadot, all the Amazonians used her accent. Like, they should have done that. So it gives this sense of they're a unified people. They're a race or a culture of people. And they didn't really do that. You don't get the sense that the Fremen are these ancient desert people, and then the Atreides come and they're like American or whatever. And they do that. This happens again in this movie where Stellan Skarsgård, who plays Baron Harkonnen, he's Swedish, so he has a slight accent. And then what's his name? Dave Bautista.
Oh, Raban.
Raban,
The
yeah.
Beast.
He just has American accent. I'm like, okay. And then Austin Butler now plays Fade, who's Raban's brother. And I'm like, Austin Butler's just doing a Stellan Skarsgård like impression. Like, it's just using his voice and inclination, whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, what is Denis doing? Like, this should have been, like I said, one or filmed back to back. But also, I'm like, there needs to be consistency in, like, okay, so the Harkonnen have like a Nordic background, and so everyone speaks with kind of Swedish Germanic accent. Okay, Fremen's like Arabic, whatever, Spanish, and then you've got the Atreides, like the Americans, English, whatever. So it all feels...
Yeah, like they're separate factions.
Yeah. But here it's just like, okay, Austin Butler came and he's like, I'm going to do a Stellan Skarsgård impression. I'm like, cool, but Raban doesn't speak like that, and neither do any of the other Harkonnens. I just feel like, I don't know, it's a nitpicky thing, but also if
no, it detracts from consistency.
Yeah.
Especially if the Fremen are meant to be that kind of, like nomadic kind of
and
tribal...
and they don't readily accept outsiders.
Exactly. They're kind of insulated.
Yeah, and Zendaya's just Zendaya. She's like, what up, dude?
Let's write some sandworms.
Yeah.
But, Alan hasn't given his thoughts on Dune so far. What are you feeling, Alan?
I definitely did like the second one more than the first one. I think, as Callum put it last time when we did do the review, there was a lot of Dune, the new fragrance by Zendaya, now available at Maya, you know?
Yeah, every time Paul has a vision of Zendaya, it's just her walking slow motion.
I'm just like, there's other stuff you could be doing, I'm just saying. But
the visions are kind of,
yeah. Whereas this one obviously had to progress certain parts of the story a lot further, so I definitely did enjoy that. Still, didn't have no sting in it, so...
Stinging, metal underwear. Yeah.
But that being said, I think probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie would have been the tournament on Gedi Prime.
Yeah.
Which was all filmed in infrared, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because they have their black sun and, it causes the weird light. It was the fireworks in that scene that went off.
It's like ink blots.
Yeah,
or
they
something.
seemed wet, and I was like, I don't like this. I never wanted to.
But you're not
imagine
meant to like it. It's good. It's effective.
I was like, I don't know.
What if it's blood? Knowing
I'm
the
like-
Harkonnen.
I'm not really meant to know what like wet fireworks looks like, but now I know. Like,
I did see one of the. There's many memes going around about Dune 2, and I did like the one where they're talking about how Baron Harkonnen should be viewed in a positive light because he just epitomizes self-love. He's like, and he's like, he's like eating, like no body shaming. He's like relaxing in his tub full of oil and
hedonism.
vaping. He's just like he needs a day.
They also cut out his penchant for young boys, which again need a halfway in between. I'm not saying they should show anything.
But again,
Oh, they also cut at Thufir Hawat and his whole thing.
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they cut out a lot of like.
So much good stuff. And I know they filmed it because there's a shot in the trailer where you can see Hawat in the corner.
that annoys me when they show things in the trailer that are not in the final
so,
movie.
Denis, I know you don't do director's cuts or extended versions, but I don't care, buddy.
So
Put it on the 4K.
Someone asked about that in an interview, and he said that he did film a whole bunch of scenes, including I can't remember the actor's name, but like there's a character who didn't appear in the first one. They filmed the scene for who's in the book, and then they flat out he just cut it. And like they don't have there's no mention to Liet Kynes in number 2. You know, Paul's like, oh, he could be like, oh yeah, I know your mother. Nah,
Yeah.
none of that. So
He's
it's
a
like
really important character.
there's a whole
and-
bunch of story that they filmed or just
Or she
didn't
in
want
the
to integrate into the film. That apparently he was devastated by it, in quotation marks or whatever,
Wait, he was?
allegedly. But that he decided that it had to not be in the film, like for whatever.
Oh, okay.
For
yeah.
logistical
I understand
reason,
pacing and stuff, but
yeah. So like yeah, they did film like whole segments with Hawat.
I think this is why I agree with you that this might not be the definitive adaptation because they've changed so much and taken so many characters out. There is room for another version, maybe in a TV series or another kind of format.
yeah. Also, like I was saying, the characters kind of start to feel a bit flat because they have to there's so many characters and they have to get through so much, and they cut out so much from the novel. And like I remember we talked about in the first movie, like in the novel, like Baron Harkonnen isn't just a big fat gross villain. He's like a master politician and tactician, and his whole plan of like, you know, betraying the what are they called? Atreides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like this whole like thing. There's this Game of Thrones to use that.
It's part of the reason they put Raban on Arrakis.
Exactly.
Because Raban there is meant to screw things up, and then they give them Fade, and
Yeah.
Fade's like, yeah, he's our hero.
And he's the same, yeah. And I'm like, I feel like all that's lost in the movie, where the Harkonnen are just bald bad guys.
yeah, stab.
Yeah.
You know, like
Also, one of the big problems with the ending. So I rewatched the first movie before seeing the second movie, and I liked it more this time than I did last time. But I was still like had problems with it. And one of my biggest problems is the end of the first movie is so rushed, and the whole fight with Jamis is just so rushed in the movie compared to the book. But also, one of the most important parts of the book is after Paul kills Jamis, he sheds a tear, which in Fremen culture is like unheard of. And so they're all like crowding around him and like touching his face and being like, you know, maybe he's the one. Like, he sheds a tear for the dead. That's insane. They cut that out of the movie, and I was like, oh, maybe they're going to leave it for this movie in a different place. No. Jessica does drop a tear, and Stilgar is like, don't waste that. But there's not the powerful scene of like, I just like there's those moments where you're like, in the book, it's like this is a moment where people realize that Paul is the Messiah or whatever, or Paul realizes, or someone or something. There is that bit at the end where he gets up and he's like yelling and he's like, all right, you believe me now? But yeah, there are so many moments like that in the book that they just lose.
Yeah, I think one of the things that got me that they lost was when... So, like, part of the thing is that when in the movie, the changing of the water of life is like this really like intimate, like no one knows what's actually happening. In the book, it's a massive like celebration because they all drink it once it's been changed. Once it's been changed, they all go ham on it.
And they have
this massive
the
celebration.
spice orgy.
Yeah, they
which
just go ham and like drink it. They go like they have like a real like celebration.
We'll see.
I understand why they cut that, but I'm like, you could have done something like a mass hallucination, like a ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah,
And they
It's
don't
gonna
even
be-
try.
It's going to be interesting to see because apparently we're still gonna get the Dune Sisterhood TV series on HBO/Max this year.
What's that going to be? A prequel or a spin-off? We don't know.
We don't know too much about it.
Yeah.
But, maybe they'll incorporate some of those elements that they missed in the movies because it's connected.
Also, yeah.
So
And
all is not lost yet.
I think Callum was saying this after we saw the movie. Like, this movie ends the same way the first novel does.
Hard cut.
Which Alex was saying earlier. Like, it does end at a sort of uncertain place where you're like, oh, wait, there needs to be more. And so when this ended, I was like, there has to be Dune Messiah now, the second book. And Denis said he definitely wants to. I don't think they've 100% greenlit it, but it looks likely.
Well, it's done better than the first movie so far.
Yeah, and
like
people
how
are,
it's been performed.
Yeah, people are going nuts about this movie. So, but I feel like
it's been. I don't know about greenlit, but I know that he's already done the script and they're already working on a score. So he's confident enough that they're already...
I think it's likely.
Yeah, they're already kind of... And also, if it hasn't been greenlit by now, they're crazy because this movie's doing bananas.
But who knows with the way movies are now.
Lots of drone noises incoming.
But what we were saying with the other night was I'll be interested to see my feelings towards the trilogy after the third movie comes out. Because, after the first one, I was like, oh, I didn't like the ending. Obviously, it's only half the story. So now I need to see the second part. Now I see the second part and I was like, I don't know how I feel about the ending. I'm like, well, now I need Messiah. But even Messiah ends in a certain uncertain sort of way, because then there's the third book and so on. So, but it'll be interesting to see the trilogy overall. But I think, without the deleted scenes back in and with all the missing important stuff from the novel, for me personally, it's never going to be the definitive Dune. And I personally think, the Lynch version, the miniseries, and this version all have their own kind of weird place where...
Fan edit incoming. We're going to take every moment from each... put them all together.
A question for the book people. So, in the first movie, it's kind of implied that Paul really needs to develop that, compelling speech.
The voice.
The voice. Yeah.
Right?
The voice in the movie is really cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
also...
They barely use it in the second one, and he only really uses it to shut down the Reverend Mother, and I'm like, but is that all we're getting?
I do really like that, even though we have been saying, like, they're playing it a bit too safe, and they've cut out a lot of the stuff maybe to appease a wider audience or a younger audience, whatever. I do like that a lot of this movie is in Fremen or in a non-English language with subtitles. So I appreciate that they didn't try to turn that into...
There's no Babelfish.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no universal translator or anything. Callum, I think you wanted to mention the costumes real quick.
Oh, yeah, the costume design slaps. The Giddy
cool.
Prime...
the gladiator
assistants on the Outer Rim.
That was
the
weird.
rodeo clowns, like...
No, I loved it. There's a real...
I thought that was cool as hell.
There's a real
xenomorph,
HR Geiger-ness to it. To a lot of this film, actually, that I really enjoyed.
When in the first movie, there's like a monster or something. And
so when Alejandro Jodorowsky was going to originally adapt Dune in the 70s, HR Giger was commissioned to do the concept art or then the designs for Gedi Prime, the Harkonnen planet. And then that movie fell through. And then... that's another part of Dune lore that I love. Jodorowsky's failed adaptation and the documentary about it. Anyway, then that fell through. Then David Lynch did... Ridley Scott was originally supposed to do it, which that would have been something. And then he obviously did Alien with H.R. Giger. Then David Lynch did the Dune movie in 1984. And... even though I don't know if they use those concepts, Gedi Prime definitely has HR Giga vibes. And now this version, 100%, I think they're also influenced. It's just that weird
but a lot of the costume design
biomechanical,
Although David Lynch's still suit is still the best.
Still the best. The still suits in this movie, whatever.
Villeneuve. His Fremen suits are too utilitarian for me. They're not science fiction-y enough.
They look very like 2020s motorcycle protective gear. Tactical gear, with the gloves, with the...
I'll always think... Whenever I think of Dune, I'll always think of Kyle MacLachlan walking up the up the thing.
Oh, another thing
With that crazy black, just dark black suit and that thing on his back. It's sick.
Another thing Lynch does better. The eyes aren't blue enough in the new version.
That was a problem with part one as well.
They're barely blue in this movie. That's nitpicky, but still, I'm like,
no, it's not nitpicky,
need
James.
more.
Like
and it's important too when characters change.
Yeah, because the spice makes them really, really blue, and it's like it's the otherworldly nature that we were talking about before.
All right,
it's,
we're running out of time.
Right.
One thing I would like to mention is, and I've lost it again.
Well, while you think of it, Alex,
Nathan's early onset dementia is what we'd like to mention.
Oh, don't joke about that. I've been struggling.
We're ready so much.
Wow, thanks, Alan.
Alex is our special guest. Do you have any final thoughts or anything else you want to mention?
I actually think it was a really good adaptation. As like you said, it takes out the weirdness. But like, I think in order to make a film like this, you can't include the weirdness. I love the weirdness. The weirdness is what makes it Dune. But in order to make a movie like this mainstream, you couldn't include that much.
Yeah, I understand like commercially, but it is a shame we live in a world where the art is compromised because they can't spend the money without it.
That's what I was going to say. We might do another Photoshop campaign. Where should you see a worm? Where should a worm turn up?
Yeah.
Let us know.
It's Arrakis, but it's just Glasgow Wonka.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Melbourne.
That's it. We're going to set up our own theme park, and it's going to be just as bad.
It's just a sand pit.
Did you hear they're making
Luna
the
Park
unknown horror movie?
Oh no, really?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they're making a what? Sorry.
So there was a real quick. I swear, there was. Did you hear about? Was it Glasgow?
Yeah, Glasgow.
Yeah, the Willy Wonka
land.
Oh, the disaster.
Yeah. They made up a fake villain called the Unknown, and it's just like some chick in a suit. And
it's getting its own movie now.
Yeah, they're making a movie about it, but it's like she's a villain.
Can't wait.
I hate Hollywood.
That's all the time we've got for tonight. Thanks for joining us, Alex, and Alan Deep, as normal. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, Newsmaster page, Threads page, Blue Sky page, Instagram page, Twitter page.
Truth social page, yeah.
You can be in charge of that. And like and subscribe to our YouTube page.
Yes. And also follow us on Letterboxd.
I'm Nathan B_90.
I'm Channel Drifter, all one word.
I think I'm Alan20,
Alan 20, but he's never going to update it because he's forgotten it exists.
And I'm pretty sure I'm Callum Tuesday.
Do you have a Letterboxd out,
No,
Alex? No,
I just watch film.
Okay.
Yeah, you should get them. You should get one.
Adios, cousins. We'll be back next week.